Welcome to Season 3 of Locker Room for Growth, a show with human-centric conversations that include compelling stories, unique professions, and those who set the tone for living with a positive attitude. I'm your host, Debbie Elicksen. Please subscribe to the show and check out our past episodes and clips. Follow me on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Threads, and more. Now let's meet our next guest. When looking at his childhood, it's no surprise that D'Angelo Stefani's life morphed into a statistic. From living with drug-addicted parents in an abusive household, to being shuffled through the foster care system, to being homeless at age 11, drugs and crime are almost inevitable if there are no capable adults in the room to guide you. It was after he served 10 years in prison for a bank robbery that Stefani opted to create a better life. He doesn't sugarcoat his past, especially in his published memoir, On My Own. As Stefani leads his audiences on a trip through his journey of survival, he reminds us that it's resilience that lets us discover our true selves and reinvent our lives to what makes us whole. Please welcome D'Angelo Stefani.
How you doing?
We're doing this twice because I forgot to hit the live button, so I will own up to that. Everybody was wondering why we were late.
That's all right.
So, going back to that original question, growing up in that toxic environment, who were your parents and what happened to them after you left?
My parents were drug addicts to begin with. I didn't know this when I was a kid. As a kid, my parents were strangers. They lived in the house and they were mean. That was my parents. As far as what happened to them, my father passed away a few years ago, and I've never found my real mom. I don't know what happened to her. I've looked and I've spent money on investigators, and it's like she disappeared. So I don't know. I don't know what happened.
So she wasn't in the home at all when you were
No, I grew up thinking my stepmom was my mom until I came across my birth certificate one day, and I realized the names didn't match. And I was really happy at the time. So I said, you know what? I'm going to show this to my dad. And this lady's busted. You know, she's been lying to us the whole time. But when I showed it to him, it went totally the opposite. I ended up getting my ass kicked. And yeah, that's what happened.
Did you have any siblings?
I did. I have a lot of sisters. I have 5 sisters. I just realized, or just found out I have another sister named Dawn. Hi, Dawn, if you're watching. She's in Texas. So my sisters, my oldest sister, she lives in Las Vegas. And my other sisters are scattered everywhere, from Arizona to Boston. We don't have any contact. So
Yeah. And were they all taken out of the house at the same time?
You know, it's funny. I won't spoil what I talk about in my book, but my oldest sister, one day, she went to school and she disappeared. Like, she never came home. And she was my best friend growing up. Like, she was the only person there for me. She used to take the pressure off me from my dad. And she never came home. So, you know, my other sisters, I think they were smart enough to leave too. I'm not sure if they did. I haven't talked to them since. But I think they had enough sense and they could see what I was going through and they left there on their own too.
And how old were you when you went into foster care?
The first time I was 10.
The first time. Yeah.
First time.
And how many homes did you have?
Oh, geez. The whole process was I'd run away, do something stupid because I knew that jail was safe. Jail, my father couldn't get to me. I was fed. I was warm. You know, I grew up really fast so I could fight. I wasn't really worried about anybody picking on me, but I was safe. So I go to jail, get released back to a different foster home, run away, and the cycle just continues. So all in all, I think I was about 7 or 8 homes I was in before I turned 18.
And do you have like stuff in a bag when you go into the first one? How does that process work when you're going into the home? Do you have anything other than the clothes on your back?
No, you don't. You really don't. I remember one of my last home I was in that was really good. They actually took me to the mall and they bought me so much stuff. Like I've never had that much clothes in my life. I had everything I wanted, but then you run away and you lose it all. The other
Yeah.
kids take it. It just you're not able to hold on to anything. And as I got older, I still have that mentality. Like I don't need a lot of stuff because I've survived on much less.
Yeah. Yeah. and being on the streets at age 11, and you know we see enough movies and TV series to get an idea of what it's like. But what is it like from your perspective to be a kid on the street? And like, where do you go? Who do you trust? How do you eat?
Right. For me, the first night I ran away, I ended up at the high school down the street. I broke into the concession stand and I ate cupcakes and slept on the floor that night. From then on, I would spend my days at the mall, watching the walkers walk and think about what I was going to do, how I was going to survive. And then when I got hungry, I would go shoplift something. And at night, I would walk neighborhoods and try to find cars that were unlocked. And that's where I'd sleep at night.
Mm, mm. That's actually pretty resilient for an 11-year-old.
Yeah, I grew up really fast. I really did. If I can pick anything to be thankful for from my childhood is that I grew up fast and I was really street smart from watching my parents.
Yeah, there you can't. Yeah, street smarts is something that helps you later
Yeah,
on in life for sure.
yeah,
Um, and when you were on the street, there's people who are working, they're going to and from their appointments, they're housed, and they've got clothes on their back, and they've got a place to sleep. How do they treat you, or do they not? Do they just ignore you when they walk by you on the street?
I think it goes both ways. I remember times where I was ignored. Um, Cops were called on me, but there were times where I would be sleeping in the back of a car and the owner would come out. I wouldn't. I'll tell you, because homelessness is very exhausting. It will wear you out. So I would oversleep in the back of the car, and then the owners would find me. And there were times where owners were like, "Hey, what's going on? Where are your parents at?" And I just not run off. Because I didn't trust anybody. I didn't know what their intentions were.
Yeah.
I never really gave anybody a chance to help me, I guess.
Yeah, and I imagine it's you don't know who to trust because there's a lot of
Right.
shady people out there, and
Any male figure that I saw my dad. That's my dad, and stay the fuck away. I don't want to talk to you. And any female figure, I remember the deception that my stepmom played on me. As I got older, I don't think it's a deception anymore. But when you're a kid and you find out that that's not your mom, it hurts. It just
yeah,
makes you wonder about a lot of things. So any female I saw, I just whatever.
I imagine it like you mentioned it's exhausting being on the street, and it just got me thinking about what it would be like, because you can't just walk all day, and cities are being so hard on unhoused populations by putting spikes on shit, and
Yeah.
like it's just horrible. And then you've got the aspect of where the hell do you pee? Like
Right.
everybody's got bodily functions.
Yeah.
It's
Well, as a guy, it's a lot easier. I'll tell you
yeah.
that. That's
Well, you still got to do number two once in a while.
yeah. I've slept and used the bathroom in a lot of weird places, at cemeteries, um,
Yeah.
out in the open sometimes. It just you do what you have to do to survive. And
Yeah.
what you do doesn't define who you are. You're just trying to make it to the next day. That's all you're trying to do.
So how many, okay, then we have the drug aspect, and it's, if you're living on the street, it's
Yeah.
easy to see why people take drugs. And the phrase "the needle as a 4-hour escape from reality" is such a powerful statement, and because people don't understand that power that drugs hold over you and why it's so difficult to get clean. Can you describe that? What is it about drugs that addicts you, that keeps you coming back? And like, I know from smoking, it's like an internal hug. It
Right.
feels like an internal hug. So, what is it with drugs, and are different drugs give you a different kind of feeling?
Right. I think addiction it looks different for everybody. Everybody has their own way. For me, it was my escape. It was well, I'll go back. The first time I got high, I was a kid. I didn't even know it. My parents were putting stuff in my bottle. I didn't know what high was, but the feeling was awesome.
They were
And I
drugging you?
remember, excuse me?
Your parents were drugging you?
Yeah, they were. I found this out years later. They were putting stuff in my bottle. They were, I was getting high when I was a kid. I guess I was born a drug addict. I don't know. But for me, the addiction was my escape. It was a way for me to say goodbye to all my issues at that time. And I remember one time I was shooting up. I don't know if the needle was burned. I don't know what happened. I might have missed, but it hurt. It was the most excruciating pain I've ever felt. And I sat there and I remember I had blood dripping down my arm, and I was thinking to myself, you know what, D'Angelo, it's kind of funny the pain you go through just to feel good. And that's always stuck with me. It always has. But as your addiction progresses, you don't get that same high anymore. They're like smoking a cigarette. That hug, that first hug is awesome. Or that hug you get in the morning when you smoke your
Not
first
the
cigarette.
same after, yeah.
You're never going to get that again. And no matter how much you chase and how much more you do, you start increasing your dose. Now you're ODing, and it's just it's a horrible cycle.
Yeah, yeah. And then, of course, today you don't know what the hell's in some of those drugs,
Yeah.
because it's scary. I mean, you could just, even if you're doing it for the first time, it could be the last.
Yeah, exactly.
How many times did you relapse before you could finally say you got clean?
Many. In fact, I relapsed a year ago, and I ended up going to rehab. It was a bad relapse. It's funny. I had everything going for me. A great job, car, house, everything. Everything was good. I think it was one of the times in my life where things were just going great. And I don't know why I relapsed. It just happened. One day I don't know. It just happens. Drugs. You're I don't know. It's like you attract when you're a drug addict. You attract situations. Like the other day, I was at the gas station getting gas, and I was walking back to my car, and I heard something drop on the ground like a glass, and I turned around, and the girl pumping gas next to me had dropped her meth pipe on the ground, and I thought to myself, why? Why me? But you attract stuff like that, and it's hard. It really, really is hard.
Yeah, and imagine the people you hang with too. Like, when a lot of people go right back into that lifestyle because they're hanging around with the same people. So if you're hanging around the same people, you're not gonna change.
That's the number one thing when you're trying to get clean is you have to remove yourself from people. It sucks.
And
Go ahead.
talk about how hard that is, though, because the people that you hang around with, you initially hang around with, that bring you into this. That's a cheaper way of living. I mean, things are expensive. You can't afford a $2,000 apartment, so you go to the maybe $500, boarding house room or something. How does the economics of it make it even harder to get away from that situation?
Yeah, I know people with a lot of money that get high. Doctors, they get high. But when you're living in an environment like you said, that's not $1 million homes. You know, it's upper lower middle class. It's a lot easier to find drugs. It really is. I moved from one city to where I knew nobody just to start over clean. I said, I'm done. I'm moving. I'm going to start over. Shoot, I've been here not even that long. I know where the drugs are. I know where to go get them, you know, because it's really different. And people aren't trying to hide it anymore. Not the rich people. Yeah, they're trying to hide it because they have a lot more to lose.
But you have a radar, though, don't you?
Yes.
If you've been there, you kind of know.
I can look at somebody.
That dude's carrying.
Yeah, exactly. I can look at somebody and be like, he gets high.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Or he's been to prison. You know, it's just, you have a certain look about yourself.
Yeah. And then there's, you know, like there's some drugs that, I mean, really stand out, like meth.
Oh, yeah.
You usually see people who are high on meth.
Yeah, he's on
characteristic, right?
Yes. Yes.
Although that is, I don't know if you could say there's a worse drug than another, but that's nasty stuff. So, what was the line in the sand moment that made you say, I can't do this anymore?
I'll be honest with you. I'm on federal probation. And if I get a dirty UA, I'm going back to prison. Mm-hmm. So on the outside, that's my line in the sand. On the inside, it's, hey, I'm tired of ODing. I'm tired of having the abscesses on my arm. I'm tired of losing people in my life that I really cared about. I'm tired of disappointing people. I'm tired of disappointing myself. So the line in the sand for me is enough is enough. You know, I know how to, when I'm high and I'm hanging around those people, I know what's expected of me. I know what to say. I know how to act. When I'm sober, I feel like I'm on the outside and I'm looking in and I'm like, why are they so happy? They're not high. And that's what I want. And that's what I'm working on. You know, I want to be in a good mood without being high. I've never had that, but wow. I'm learning how to do that. I really am. So my line in the sand is just, hey, I'm tired of this shit. You know, I'm tired of prison. I'm tired, like I said, I'm tired of all the crap that comes with addiction. And I want a good life. I'm almost 50. You know, I haven't even lived yet. I haven't. But I'm starting to now. And that's what I want.
And it's a process. You can only take it one day at a time, right?
Yeah. I can't plan for next week because I don't know what's going to happen. My calendar may say I'm doing this, but who knows if the drugs don't come along and wipe everything out. So I have to stay focused. I have to take it one day at a time. I take it 1 hour at a time, you know, and it's a process. It really is, but I'm doing it. I am.
And you mentioned the abscess on your arm. Oh my God, the pain for one. Yes. I'm feeling it while you say it. And so if you do shoot up, you must run out of places to put it.
You do. Your veins start to collapse. It gets really, really hard to get high. And once you use drugs intravenously, you're not going to go back to doing it. You could smoke heroin, you could snort it for years, and then you go to shoot it up, you're never going to smoke or snort it again, I promise you.
So that gives you the more instantaneous.
Yeah. It doesn't, the weird thing is it doesn't last as long, but it's instant. And that's, as drug addicts, that's what we want. Instantaneous pleasure, instantaneous release from the pain that we have inside whatever we're dealing with.
Yeah, that explains a lot.
No.
You may still be processing this, but when did you start feeling safe enough to sleep?
Safe enough to sleep? Like as a child or here? Or like now?
Now, because you can't sleep in prison.
No,
you got to sleep with one eye open. You're on the street, you got to sleep with one eye open. You're at home, you had to sleep with one eye open.
I'm still trying to
now.
I'm still trying to learn that. You know, my girlfriend helps a lot. She really does. But before her, it was constant waking up. I never got a good night's sleep because I was always
You're on edge.
Because I was a kid on the streets. I've always had one, like you said, one eye open, you know, ready for whatever comes. And I'm actually learning how to relax now. I can actually just sleep and not worry about being in prison and getting stabbed or being homeless and the cops running up on me or being high and somebody stealing my shit. You know, I can actually sleep now. So
Yeah. That's got to be huge.
It is. It is. It's you look better, you feel better, and life's just better when you get good sleep.
Yeah. Yeah. And sleep, your body thanks you if you can
Yeah.
sleep, but I can't even, yeah, that stress has
Yeah.
to play a toll. And that physical toll of that stress all those years and with the drug addiction, after so many years of it, and God, your parents, um, what does that do? What's that physical toll on your body today?
There are days when I feel like I'm 80, you know. I think my health is damaged a lot from my drug use. I might not be able to see it or, but I can tell. I can tell my arm. I mean, I've got scars on my arms. I wear long sleeve shirts all the time. I mean, they're not horrendous and bad, but I see them, and
Yeah.
it bothers me. But it just sometimes I feel good, and sometimes I know it's because of my past and my drug use that I feel like shit today.
Yeah. Yeah. I imagine it. Of course, it takes a while for you to get that shit out of your system too, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I remember when I stopped using, I was still pissing dirty for my PO, and I'm like, there's no way. There's no way. I haven't, but it stays in your system. It really does.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure they know that, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, and it's yeah, the physical toll is something that nobody really talks about too much, and actually with the scars after a while, of course, imagine after they're still healing, that's one
Yeah.
thing, but once they've healed, you know that might be your badge of honor too. Like, it might be if you come out to the other side, and now that's proof that you can always get a tattoo over it.
Yeah. I do. Yeah.
Oh, okay, there you go.
I've covered them all up. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
for me, they're still there.
yeah.
And I think that's what being sober is all about. It's not about,
It's the reminder, right?
yeah, it's about showing yourself, hey, you've been through that and you came out the other side and you made it, or you're making it actually. Because you never make it. You never fully say, you know what, I am no longer a drug addict. No, I will always be a drug addict. Always, because I have an addiction. There's something, a switch that was turned on the first time I got high, even when I was a kid, that just made me crave this feeling. But I will always be a drug addict. I will never say I'm good. I used to get high, now I say I used to get high, but I'm working on not getting high anymore. So
I so get that, because I'm sitting here talking to you and I'm thinking, you know what I'm thinking about right now? And I haven't done one in like
smoking a
20 years.
cigarette,
I'm fucking
smoking a cigarette,
cigarette.
yeah, yeah. I know how you feel, because before I couldn't talk about this. I couldn't talk about shooting up, because I would want to go get high.
Yeah.
Even today,
God, I hope I don't.
yeah, I work in the medical field, and when I see a syringe, sometimes, all the time, when I see a freaking
Yeah,
syringe,
yeah,
it reminds me of getting high, and it's part of it. It's part of it, it's part of it.
yeah, yeah. It's part of that test of your psyche, and whether it's
Yeah,
part of that life test that you
yeah.
you have to pass. And I have to say, Stefani, it's such a brave thing that you've done. I mean, coming out to tell, no matter who you are, coming out to tell your story is terrifying. And writing can be healing, but you also have a family. And how have they anchored you through this journey?
The biggest thing is they haven't given up on me. They haven't. My girlfriend Jennifer, she has been understanding. She has never done a drug in her life. She's the biggest square you'll ever meet. She has no clue. She has no idea. She might smoke a cigarette here and there, but when it comes to drugs, never. No marijuana, nothing. So she doesn't even understand what the addiction is. But yet she's still there. She's still there. So
Have you forgiven yourself?
I have, because as I've gotten older, I've realized none of that shit that happened to me growing up was my fault. You know, that wasn't my fault. But when I was a kid, oh, I was so hard on myself. I was so just hard, really, really hard on myself. Everything was my fault. Everything. Growing up, even my phrase that came to mind is "I'm sorry." I would always say "I'm sorry," even to the littlest. I still do it today. You know, sometimes my girlfriend's like, "Shut up, we didn't do anything," but yet I still feel like I did, because that's how I was growing up.
Of course, that is a Canadian phrase too, by the way. I know
Is it really?
Canadian. We say sorry if we bump into somebody in a store.
Yeah.
We're the ones, or they bump into us rather. We
it's your fault.
Sorry.
Yeah, I know what that means. I know what that feels like.
Yeah. So, but yeah. Tell me more about your book.
I wrote my book when I was in prison because, like I said, writing was therapy for me. I had to get this shit out. You know, I talked to my counselors about it, but I couldn't talk for more than 5 minutes without just breaking down. And I found writing. Oh yeah. So I had my little pencil and my piece of paper, and every night I would just write down memories. And when I got out of prison, I always said, I'm going to write a book. So I wrote this book. A version of this book came out a few months ago, and it didn't even touch what I went through. It was more like, I want to get this shit out. I want to get it done. Now on my own is an expanded version. It's everything, I don't want any spoilers, but my family, my drug addiction, my failed nursing, just everything. And it's helped me. It's helped me. It really has. I don't mind talking about stuff, because my thing is this: I want some kid that's 10 years old who's living in a fucked up family to read my book and know, hey, he went through the same thing I had. Because when I was growing up, nobody was ever there for me. Nobody ever took me under their wing and said, hey, let's get out of this situation. So that's what I want to do. I want that kid that's living in an environment to read my book and say, hey, there is a way, there is a better way. This isn't my fault. I was born into this. I can make something out of my life no matter what I go through. I started my own company. I got out of prison. People say, hey, it's going to be hard no, it ain't hard. What's hard is staying focused. That's what's hard. This whole stigma of you're a felon, bullshit. Unless you're a felon of murder or you're a sex offender, yeah, good luck in life. But other than that, if you're just a drug addict and you made mistakes in your life, even if you're not a drug addict, you can get out of prison and do whatever you want, whatever. And I started a company because I love to read. I love books. I love the smell of books. I love holding books. The library, call me a nerd, but the library is my favorite place to go ever. And I want to publish stories like mine. I want people to be able to have an outlet for their stories so they can touch people. Yeah, fiction is good, but I'm tired of fiction. I've lived in fiction my whole life. My whole life has been fiction, so I want, this is a nonfiction thing. I want my story out there. I want to help people. I don't give a shit if it sells. I want that one person to read my book and say, hey, thank you for writing this. That's all I want. That's it. Because I think that's my purpose. I had to go through everything I went through in life to get to where I am today. And I'll tell you what, I am a much better person today than I ever was because of what I went through. And I want people to see that. And
you mentioned your book is on Kindle right now?
It is. It came out. I got an email this morning. It's on Kindle, available on Amazon, Barnes and it's everywhere now. So things are good. They really are.
So do you have any social, where can people learn more about you? Do you have social links?
I have a webpage, D'AngeloStefani.com.
Okay.
I'm on Facebook. It's facebook.com, Boston, 2, Tulsa. I'm really not very active on social media, but I'm on there. And
understandably, considering where you've been for.
Yeah, but if people want to contact me, hey, reach out. I'm happy to talk to anybody.
Yeah. Even if just one person, you help one person.
That's it. One person, and my purpose in life has been fulfilled.
Thank you so much for this discussion. I think it's so important to learn more about this. And people are human. And thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
This is Debbie Elicksen. Thank you to my guest and to you, the viewer, for watching this episode of Locker Room for Growth. Please subscribe to this channel and check out our past shows and clips in the YouTube playlist. The show broadcasts from Treaty 7 on Turtle Island, the traditional territory of the Blackfoot people, which includes Siksika, Blood, Piikani, Tsuut'ina, Stoney Nakoda Nations, and Métis Nation Region 3. Again, thank you for watching, and please subscribe.